Hi, this is Christina with the Sisyphean Journal, and in response to a request that I cover fetal live human fetus experimentation, I'm doing another video. You can put a comment below what it is you'd like me to cover. I hear and obey. Today, we're looking at a LifeSite news article, The Forgotten Nightmarish 1972 Experiments on Living Babies During Abortion. And I always try to get what I call a secular source, which is something that's not from pro-lifers, that's from a medical journal or autopsy reports or something where you can't dismiss it as, oh, that's just what those right-to-lifers say because they want to make abortion look bad. I'm going to go through the LifeSite story because the paper they cite is really, really dense and really, really technical. I'm going to provide a link to both the LifeSite news article and to the paper that they reference so that you can see that they are indeed quoting it accurately. But again, the reason I'm using the LifeSite news article isn't that I'm giving some kind of precedence to what the pro-lifers say over what the scientists say. It's just that it's summarized and it's much easier to read than the highly technical paper. And one of the things that bugs me about pro-lifers is anything talking about abortion survivors. They always show a picture of a full-term infant, and I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they'd show a baby that age. So, they're referencing David Daleiden and the Center for Medical Progress undercover videos. But what the point they're making here is that this didn't just come out of nowhere, cutting open live abortion survivors' faces to harvest their brains. This didn't come out of nowhere. They've been doing it for a while. The following information is just one example pieced together to demonstrate how ingrained this type of research is in the global scientific and industrial communities. In 1972, Pediatric Research Journal published a paper submitted by researchers from the Department of Pediatric Research at New York and Mount Sinai School of Medicine and the City University of New York in collaboration with a researcher from the Department of Medical Chemistry and Obstetrics and Gynecology in the University of Helsinki in Finland. The paper was titled Development of Mammalian Sulfur Metabolism, Absence of, I'm not going to try to pronounce that chemical, in human fetal tissues. And here is the article, like I said, and I'm going to link below. But this way you can see for yourself that the pro-life site is accurately representing what is in this scientific article. The researchers examined the development of the transsulfuric pathway in 58 human fetuses obtained at therapeutic abortion during approximately the 2nd through 6 months of gestation, as well as premature and full-term infants who died shortly after birth. Since the fetuses were still alive at the beginning of the experiment in their mother's wombs, in vivo experiments were possible. The phrase in vivo is Latin and means within the living. With already deceased specimens, they could only measure the presence of amino acids after death. This type of analysis is an in vitro, in the glass. Think of in vitro fertilization procedure. So with the still living fetuses, they could actually inject a known amount of amino acids into a living fetus and test how these substances were incorporated into fetal organisms via the biological machinery of life over a set period of time. The researchers therefore conducted the in vivo experiments by surgically cutting open the uterus of the mother, lifting out the living fetus with the umbilical cord still attached, and injecting the amino acids into the umbilical vein. They waited 10 minutes with the heart still beating and the fetus still moving to allow the body to distribute and metabolize the amino acids. After 10 minutes, they cut the umbilical cord, dissected the brain and liver from the body of the fetus, and dropped the organs into liquid nitrogen to await analysis. I'm going to pull out the relevant parts of this quote. For in vivo experiments, each fetus immediately after removal from the uterus was injected with approximately so much of these various drugs. So they cut the mother's open like they were doing a C-section, and they lifted the fetus out. It doesn't say, I'm thinking for the baby to remain alive with the heart beating for a full 10 minutes because they want the blood circulating to see how much of these amino acids settle in the various fetal organs, that the placentas were probably still attached at this point. So what they were doing was like fetal surgery that we see nowadays to correct problems, but instead of just opening the uterus, operating on the baby, and then putting the baby back, they opened the uterus, did their things to the baby, and then finished the abortion. All injections were made into the umbilical vein through a short Teflon catheter. After 10 minutes, in all cases, the heart continued to beat during the 10-minute period and spontaneous movement was seen. The cord was severed close to the fetus, and as much blood as possible was collected into a tube which contained heparin as an anticoagulant. The fetal organs were quickly removed and dropped into liquid nitrogen. So I'm not sure if they waited for the babies to be completely dead before they cut them open and took out their organs so that they could drop them into liquid nitrogen. So the abortions appear to have been done at the Central University Hospital and Borja Women's Hospital in Helsinki, Finland, because an endnote offers thanks to the staff there. So this experiment was done with researchers from American hospitals and universities, but it was done in Finland. So, and then Life News addresses the fact that this was an ordeal for the mothers. Among the details in the paper was the anesthesia procedure for the woman. Not all the details regarding the women were recorded, though. According to the pediatric research paper, the mothers, and let me see, do they use the word mothers? Yeah, they use 3 uses of the word mother. Okay. Large doses of vitamin B were given to 3 mothers for 2 weeks prior to the abortion. So they were planning these abortions, but they delayed them in order to keep the fetuses alive for this research. Inasmuch as the group of mothers was well nourished, the question of effect on maternal nutrition in regard to this awaits further study. Okay. All mothers were apparently in good health. All abortions were performed for social or psychological reasons. Stumbling across the fact that they were planning these abortions a couple of weeks in advance, and started the experiment by giving things to the mothers so that it would perfuse the baby's tissues beforehand is kind of creepy. So instead of just doing a regular abortion where they would go in vaginally and take the fetus out without cutting the mother open, instead they cut her open, and again, they weren't clear about whether during this 10-minute period they still had the mother open there on the operating table, so that the baby would still be getting blood supply from her during this process. So they clamped shut the blood vessel that was taking blood out of the baby so the baby wouldn't bleed to death while they were doing this, while they were keeping the baby alive for 10 minutes. But like I said, it certainly seems like they were keeping the mother open so the placenta would still be attached. The research paper did not mention whether the mothers gave consent or were informed of the procedure. Well, the fact that they were administered, I can't remember what, something for 2 weeks prior to the abortion, makes me wonder, again, how much they were told. And this paper was to research human formula, and I believe it was used by Nestle. So it doesn't say that this research was directly related to Nestle or not. But again, here it is, a pro-life article that is very carefully talking about a scientific paper about fetal tissue research, and the pro-lifers bring up the issue of whether these mothers got proper informed consent and whether these mothers were needlessly endangered in order to perform this research. If there's anything you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below, and I will queue it up and I'll address it on days when either I don't have an abortion death anniversary or I have so little information that it really isn't worthwhile doing a video.